Do you remember that whole FBI going after Catholics thing?
Director, what's the difference between a traditional Catholic and a radical traditional Catholic?
I'm not an expert on the Catholic orders.
Well, your FBI wrote a memo talking about radical traditional Catholics. I'm just wondering if you could define it for us.
Well, what I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office, which as soon as I found out about it, I was aghast and ordered it withdrawn and removed from FBI systems.
There was only one field office. Did you know that was just the Richmond field office? Except we found out yesterday it's most definitely not just one field office. As I told you at the time, there's no way you grab one piece of paper from one office that we only found out about courtesy of a whistleblower and then assume that's not taking place all over the place. Of course, it's all over the place. The FBI has picked a side when it comes to America. Joining me now, Mark Houck, co-founder, president of the King's Men, Republican candidate for Congress in Pennsylvania, which I love. But more specifically, you probably recognize his name if you watch this show. We've covered extensively the fact that this pro-life Christian father has been attacked by this FBI for his beliefs. Mark, for those who forget the shows we've done on you, you're here now. It's not my words, it's your story, not mine. Tell it.
Well, great. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you and to share our journey is always a pleasure. So, I'll give you the truncated version. Had a bit of an altercation at a Planned Parenthood in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was dismissed at the state level. The FBI picked it up within 5 days of dismissal. About 6 months later, I was raided in my home with about 20 plus federal agents and PA state troopers, held at gunpoint, M16s, my children held at gunpoint, my wife as well. Proceeded to be indicted under 2 counts against the FACE Act. That's freedom of access to clinic entrances. That trial began in January this year and lasted a week. And we were acquitted of all charges. I was facing 11 years in prison, $350,000 in fine, and 3 years probation. So that was the journey, and we've been telling the story ever since.
Weapons pointed at your children as well. Do I have that right?
Right. So they had the M16 guns pointed at me and my wife when we came out of the door. And then, of course, as we opened the door and exited the door, an agent did put his M16 rifle in my threshold of my door, and my children were downrange on the steps.
Oh, yeah. Okay, is all that behind you now before we move on, or are there more charges coming from this FBI?
Well, there's no chance of them charging me again, so we're away from that. We're in the process of suing the government ourselves. So that process is just beginning for us. So we're going to hold them accountable, and justice will be rendered, hopefully.
Here was Christopher Wray when he was asked about you specifically.
Those decisions are made, as they should be, by the commanders on the ground in the field office who have the expertise about when to conduct operations safely and securely for the safety of everybody involved. And to my knowledge, those processes were all followed in this case. I understand that people have their opinions. All I can tell you is that we have one standard, which is irrespective of ideology, of politics. In this country, it doesn't matter what you're upset about or who you're upset with. You don't get to express that upset with violence. And so we are agnostic as to the ideology and focused on the violence.
Agnostic. It's very interesting because, Mark, I would have sworn your lawyer informed all of them that you, as a peaceful man, were more than willing, if you were in trouble, to go down and turn yourself in, which that's a law enforcement officer's dream. Then nobody's in harm's way. The guy who's getting arrested isn't in harm's way. The officers aren't in any potential harm. Turn yourself in is wonderful. But correct me if I'm wrong, did they not turn you down and then send a SWAT team to your home?
That's correct. We did communicate immediately once we got our target letter saying we were a target of a federal grand jury investigation. And we said, look, he's a peaceful man. We'll bring him to you. No need to bring an agent out to his house. This is what my attorney said. We'll bring him right to you. Oh, plus you can get him on the street every Wednesday because that's where you served him, and that's where he is every Wednesday. So no need to cause any disturbance to his family. That was communicated back in April. Of course, they ignored that request and decided to bring a heavily armed unit to my home.
Can you explain what sidewalk counseling is? I know you're out there doing the Lord's work at these abortion clinics, but can you explain what it is for people who don't know?
Yeah, it's First Amendment right protected activity, which consists of just putting yourself on a sidewalk in front of an abortuary, as we might call them, a Planned Parenthood, where I was, and you're just there offering free literature to those going into the facility, free help, anything that they need prior to or even as they exit the facility, all done in a spirit of peace and love and compassion and great respect. And usually we have pregnancy resource centers nearby that we can kind of give them information about or take them to. So, it's done very effectively and has been for years since Roe v. Wade was passed.
What more can our movement be doing? I mean, pro-life people who don't want abortion to happen anywhere in this country. I know we've had some wins. I know we have a long way to go, especially to change the minds and hearts of people in this country. But what else can we be doing, Mark?
Well, of course, after my arrest, there was a lot of morale that was affected, and a lot of people stopped going onto the sidewalk, at least here in Philadelphia, and I later learned that was the case on a national level. So people were scared, and of course, rightfully so, and that's what their whole intent of the DOJ was, to instill fear, humiliate me, intimidate pro-life America, and put that fear in them. But thankfully, through the case law, which was United States versus Houck, now we have case law that will protect and bolster. So we need to get the people back out on the streets and knowing that they have nothing to fear. They have First Amendment rights and it's protected. So they need to get back out on the street first and foremost. And of course, we need to work. And as I'm discerning for myself, I need, what more can I do? And I feel the call to go to Congress and to help bolster Dobbs and support all that legislation and funding that exists and defund those places that need to be defunded. And so, that's what I'm doing. And I think each one of us have to ask ourselves, what more can I do for the movement? And so for me, that's stepping up. I don't really want to run for Congress or be a politician, but you know what? I feel like I have a duty to help the Republic, and I think I can. I think my story is going to be effective in the weaponization of the American people, and that's how I'm going to do my part.
Mark, I know you've got a big, loving family. What do they think about all this? They've just been through the ringer with all this FBI crap. They excited? They scared? What are they like?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a mystery to all of us, but they're excited for their dad. Yeah, at the same time, what does this mean for the Houck children, right? What does this mean for the wife of Mark Houck? We don't know that just yet. We know it's going to be crazy busy, but we're all saying yes to it, and we have to be more prayerful. We have to be more disciplined in our schedules. We got to be more disciplined in our communication with one another. So I think that it's an unknown, and we're praying that God will give us the grace. We know He will to sustain us as we travel this journey.
Yeah, He will. Mark, I wish you the best, my brother.
Hey, great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me again.
I have great news. If you enjoyed that, I have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to. Whatever I do, it'll be right there on YouTube. So go subscribe today.